Hey, I'm Blair Best. It's Tuesday here on The Story, and tonight, another wrinkle regarding the license plate camera controversy in the state of Washington. New video shows officers arresting the wrong man after the system flagged the car he was driving. Plus, new numbers on how many homeless camps have been removed from the city of Portland in recent months. Why some critics point to Multnomah County leadership for why so many tents dot the sidewalks. But first, just over a year has passed since the last of 4 dams on the Lower Klamath River came down in southern Oregon, opening up hundreds of miles of prime salmon spawning habitat. But now, some of those fish have taken a wrong turn as they work to go back to the places where they haven't been in over a century. It's our big story tonight. So it's been called the largest dam removal and river restoration project in U.S. history. Dams on the Klamath River blown to bits the past few years, opening up roughly 400 miles of the Lower Klamath Basin to allow fish like salmon to repopulate. Federal regulators gave the green light back in late 2022, a decision celebrated by then-Governor Kate Brown in her final weeks in office.
It has taken nearly my entire tenure as governor, but finally, we can say with certainty that these dams are coming down, and it's about damn time.
The dams had been there since 1918 and most recently provided hydropower for Pacific Corp, though the utility noted they produce less than 2% of the company's electricity. In early October of last year, the dam removal was complete. Tribes in southern Oregon and northern California fought for decades to make it happen, to allow salmon back to their historic habitat. And it only took about 1 week for a Chinook salmon to swim past one of the dam sites for the first time in more than a century. Experts said it marked the beginning of salmon recovery in the region. And fast forward to September of this year, and you have this monumental moment, a Chinook salmon ascending the fish ladder at the Kino Dam on the Upper Klamath River. The first visual confirmation of salmon making it that far upriver since the 4 dams were removed, heading to historic spawning grounds. Now, each of those updates seen as a great success in reintroducing salmon to the Upper Klamath Basin in Oregon, which is great. The not so great part, some of the fish are ending up in areas where they are not likely to spawn, let alone survive. Okay, you're looking at salmon swimming in an irrigation canal in the Klamath Drainage District. It spans 27,000 acres of farmland. Farmers there rely on the water that's diverted from the river into these canals. In this case, we're talking about the 80 Canal, highlighted here on this map. You can see just how close this area is to the Oregon-California border. Water managers say the fish don't stand much of a chance once they find their way into offshoots from these canals called turnouts, which lead to farm fields.
You know, my district, the concern is we don't want the fish going where the fish shouldn't be going. You know, we don't want to see fish flopping around out in the fields. That's not a good thing. I mean, we actually have fish in our canal right now. I was down there this morning looking at them, and it's a cool thing, but it's also it causes a bit of anxiety as well and frustration. You know, we shouldn't be put in this position, and here we are having to start really pushing some buttons to get some action.
We talked to Scott White last month, and when he says pushing buttons to get something done, he's talking about an agreement signed 9 years ago between the feds, Oregon, California, and stakeholders in the Klamath Basin. It's called the Klamath Power and Facilities Agreement. One part of the deal aimed to limit burdens on irrigators if and when fish like salmon were reintroduced to the area. There's a section that talks about non-federal funding for entertainment reduction facilities, otherwise known as fish screens. ODFW has a section on its website showing numerous different kinds of fish screens. Okay, they're most basic. They're like gates that allow water to travel into the canal turnouts, but stop fish from straying into them. Despite that Klamath Agreement deal being signed back in 2016, 0 fish screens have been installed in the area so far.
How I picture it in my head, you know, is the canal is a highway, And we've been asking for the last 9 years for the government to help us close the off ramps, if you will, because there's construction going on out there. If you go out there, that's a bad place for you to be. We don't want you taking this off ramp. We need help closing those off ramps so that they stay on the highway and get to where they should be going, which is the refuge and potentially back to the river. Back and forth, stay on the highway is all we're asking. We need help closing those off ramps. If we can get every fish to go and spawn, we should be doing our level best to try and give those fish that opportunity. And so obviously a fish gets out into a field, it's not going to get that opportunity to spawn. Very likely not get the opportunity to spawn. And if it does, there's no way that the fish are going to get back out of the field. It's just not going to happen.
In a statement, ODFW told us, although it is unfortunate some fish have found their way into canals and areas lacking suitable spawning habitat, this behavior of exploring and searching for newly available suitable habitat in the upper basin is exactly what is needed at this time for successful repopulation. We are monitoring and hopeful that these fish will return to the main stem and ultimately find more suitable habitat. The agency also tells us that demand is far outpacing supply for these kind of screens, and that it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of project. Each screen needs to be designed specifically for each site. And as we showed you, there are several different types of screens. ODFW stressed to us that the timeline for getting these screens installed is a much longer process than what many expect, but they continue to work on it. The agency is working with the Klamath Drainage District on a $4.5 million fish screen project in the 80 Canal, with the first screen planned for next year if the funding is approved. But the decade of delays leaves water managers like Scott White frustrated.
We share the excitement of these fish coming back. We want to do what's right by the fish, and we want to make sure that we do our best to take care of them as well. It's exciting, it's fun. But doggone it, let's do what we promised and do the best that we can by those fish as well, and make sure that we're not creating opportunities for them to not go live out their life cycle the way that they're intended to.
Okay, now it's your turn to weigh in. Is it a matter of natural selection for some fish that may end up in a farm field with little water, becoming a potential easy meal for birds of prey? Or should the state and feds kick things into gear to better protect the fish? Email us the story at kgw.com or call and leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090.
The tents are coming from somewhere, and they're brand new.
Okay, we have new numbers tonight on how many homeless camps have been removed from the streets of Portland in recent months. The city is required to track the data as part of a legal settlement agreement. More on that in a minute. But first, let's take a look at the numbers. From July 1st of this year to September 30th, so in 3 months, the city of Portland removed 1,953 campsites. More than 1,300 of those were blocking sidewalks. And the city set up 12 no camping signs on 3 blocks. Now, taking a step back and looking at this data over the past couple of years, since July 1st, 2023, the city of Portland has removed 16,197 campsites. More than 9,000 of those were blocking sidewalks, and the city has set up 100 no camping signs in the past 2 years. Okay, you may remember about 3 years ago, a group of Portlanders sued the city over tents blocking ADA access on public sidewalk. The city settled, agreeing to remove at least 500 campsites a year and pay special attention to the ones that block public rights of way. Well, today, I caught up with John DiLorenzo, the attorney who represented those who sued the city.
It appears to me the reason why we still had 1,365 encampment removals on sidewalks this last quarter was because the nonprofits are passing out new tents and tarps, and they're using the money they are getting from the government to do that.
Okay, he's referring to nonprofits that get money from Multnomah County. The city of Portland does not hand out tents, and city contractors are also prohibited from doing so. The county only hands them out during severe weather. However, service providers that work for the county are allowed to use county money to pay for and hand out tents, a practice that DiLorenzo wants to stop.
Well, here's the big problem. The nonprofits are doing the work that this government should be doing. The government should be helping figure out what is going to happen with the people who are sleeping outside. But the government doesn't want to get its hands dirty. And so what they are doing is outsourcing what should be their function to a whole variety of nonprofits that have different ideological positions.
In a statement today, a Multnomah County spokesperson told us individual outreach providers have retained the ability to obtain and distribute tents on their own, including using flexible client assistance dollars, just as they were able to do before the pandemic. Providers will make those decisions based on the unavailability of an appropriate shelter bed and/or a particular person's specific health needs.
So we're calling on the mayor to please extend his missionary work with the county to convince Jessica Vega Peterson that she shouldn't engage in a shell game by committing the county to not passing out tents, but allowing all of her nonprofits that receive money to do so.
The City of Portland's camp removal budget is about $14 million. That's taxpayer money. Last week, some city councilors tried to make cuts to that budget, arguing too many camps were being removed and that clearing them does not help people get off the street, but rather moves them from block to block. That proposal to trim that budget failed in a relatively close vote. Well, a new Multnomah County report shows big problems for the county's deflection center, which opened last year. A place where people caught solely with possession of hard drugs can go to get connected with treatment instead of jail. Well, turns out very few people are using it, while millions have been spent to get it up and running. Thomas Schultz explains.
Well, to say county leaders are disappointed by this data would be an understatement. Commissioners want to see progress, and they want to see it fast. This center opened back in October of 2024 to be a place where people caught with drugs could receive treatment instead of jail time after the state recriminalized illegal drug use. Though in its first year, law enforcement only referred 520 people here. That's less than 2 a day. And here's where it gets really bleak. Only 113 people actually completed the deflection program, meaning they used a service like a shelter or sobering center offered to them. Over the past few months, more people have visited the facility, leading to marginally improved results. Still, it's a far cry from what county leaders are pushing for.
I'm concerned that this model fundamentally doesn't really work.
2 people a day can't, for the millions of dollars we spent, we can't continue with that.
In the first 11 months of the center, the county spent more than $8 million operating this building and also getting it up and running in the shape that it needs to be. We asked them, what have those operating expenses been like over the past 2 months? Those numbers were not included in recent data. We didn't hear back from the county on that. Though leaders of this program within the county say, look, this is a place that's supposed to be a front door to get people the help that they need, not a place where they get the treatment themselves.
We've been judged on a program that was not designed for what people are asking us to do.
Now, staff say they would like to treat people on site because that helps them get that treatment as soon as possible, making the whole process a little bit more efficient. But here's the thing, that would cost more money, something that has not been allocated. In Southeast Portland, Thomas Schultz, KGW News.
Now let's get to some of your thoughts on our big story from last night. Former Oregon Governor Ted Kulongoski is leading the charge on 2 ballot initiatives aimed at opening Oregon's primary elections. Right now in primaries, only Democrats can vote for Democrats and only Republicans can vote for Republicans. If you're one of the 1.1 million unaffiliated voters in Oregon, you don't get a say in the elections to choose the party's top candidates. And although Kulongoski is credited for being a major part of why Democrats dominate Oregon politics nowadays, he says it's time for a change. And open primaries will help the state find more of a middle ground.
All of the non-affiliated voters and the independent voters are paying taxes to the state to run the state election. So their taxes are funding these elections, but we're not allowing them to vote. And I think that's wrong. And I don't think it's fair. And I think the public is probably going to come to the same conclusion I do. Now is the time to open up the primary system.
So based on your feedback, the majority of you agree. Marion wrote to us, yes, open the primaries. I agree that it will require candidates to reach toward the middle. Huzzah.
I am so in favor of this. I've been a lifelong Democrat, but no longer for the last 5 years. This is thrilling. I applaud Ted Kulongowski for his efforts, and I'm behind him 100%.
Okay, several of you who support Kulongowski's idea asked us how you can sign on to his initiative in order to get it on the November 2026 ballot. Well, they are not quite at that stage yet, but they're close. First, they need approval from the Oregon Attorney General on the ballot language for the petitions. Once they have that, voter signature gathering can begin. But we did hear from some of you who like the closed primary system that's in place now. Doug wrote on our YouTube page, we live in a two-party system, and I personally don't want independents or Republicans choosing my candidate, and I shouldn't have a say in their choice of candidate either. And Joe told us, primaries for each party can be open to non-affiliated voters, but not to those from the other major party. No way. Otherwise, you would have Democrats voting to sabotage the Republican primary and Republicans voting to sabotage the Democrat primary. Okay, coming up next on the story, traffic cameras that read license plates have been disabled in places like Woodburn and up in Skamania County. And one man in the state of Washington says the flock cameras are creating high-tech mistakes with real-life consequences. And there's video to prove it. That's next when the story returns. Well, last week on the story, we told you about traffic cameras that scan license plates from a company called Flock being disabled in Southwest Washington. The reason? A recent judge's ruling, which made the images from those cameras public records, meaning that anyone could request them for any reason. And as you're about to see, the tech is not perfect. The cameras pinged police up in Redmond, Washington, pointing to a vehicle associated with someone with a felony warrant. As Sharon Yu reports, police only realized they had the wrong guy after the man was in handcuffs.
This is the moment Redmond police surrounded Thor Andrews Sr.'s home back in August. Redmond PD's drone video shows officers approach him in the driveway and handcuff him in seconds. But they had the wrong man.
Hurt my shoulder, hurt my elbow, my wrists. I was explaining to them that you have the wrong person.
Police records say a flock license plate camera flagged Thor Sr.'s car as being associated with his son, who shares his name and has a felony warrant. But the silver 2012 Ford Fusion that pinged is registered to Thor Sr. Redmond PD knew that.
Now I'm really distraught about even driving this vehicle.
Flock cameras alert police to vehicles linked to people with warrants, but in this case, the alert pointed to the father, not the son. Only later did officers confirm he wasn't the Thor Andrews they were looking for.
I think that these cameras give them information that they're looking for in some kind of way, but I don't know if that information is being utilized properly.
Redmond police say they acted on the flock alert, briefly detained Andrews to confirm his identity and released him once they realized the warrant was for his son, Andrews Jr. On Tuesday, Redmond City Council officially voted to temporarily disable flock cameras in the city while they rethink next steps.
The vendor has not proven trustworthy in other areas around the country and does not have the trust of our community, which is something that I heard so loud and clear.
More than 80 Washington law enforcement agencies use Flock's license plate readers. And Andrew says his case shows how easily a false hit could have bigger consequences.
What if my grandson had been in the vehicle and they thought I was reaching for something and they still thought that I was Thor Jr.? I just think that that it could have gone a very different way.
Well, we will keep tabs on that story. But in the meantime, let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino. Matt, okay, it was chilly this morning, but do these cooler temps mean snow in the Cascades?
Oh, I wish it did. I mean, we're just waiting and waiting and waiting. We've got the clear sky here, and it looked like we may get some snow Sunday night and into Monday, but now the odds of that are looking lower and lower. But we got some clear sky. Look at the great sunset, Blair, out at the Oregon coast. Isn't that great?
Love that.
Yeah,
gorgeous.
Beautiful, right? Fantastic. Okay. It has been chilly. We hit 50 today. That was our high, and it's below average by 3 degrees. Everybody pretty much in the 40s and 50s. But it has been a warm November so far. Our average low temperature through yesterday, 3rd warmest on record. The average high temperature, 6th warmest on record. And we've had 8 60-degree days, and that's also in the top 10. So by all these metrics, it's been a warm start to November. It's cooling off now, but I don't see any big signs of massive snow coming to the Cascades, unfortunately, skiers, and I'm with you on that. It is chilly, though. Right now, it's down to 38 in Eugene, 41 in Salem, 46 in Tillamook. So you can see the clear sky here, right? So that's what we'll have overnight tonight. And you can see another storm here, which, if it was going to move directly into the northwest, would be very promising for mountain snow and more valley rain. But it's not.
I was like, where's the catch?
It's going south into California like its predecessors. Watch this. Here it comes. Part of it spins up to the north, but then the bulk of it moves on down to the south. We're left with not much in between. Now, this is Saturday morning. There could be a sprinkle or two, but still no Cascade snow. This is the system coming in Sunday night and Monday. In Oregon, still no Cascade snow. Then it dries out again for the first part of the week. Our best chance, Blair, going forward for getting any significant snow in the Cascades looks like Thanksgiving Day or later. But that's still more than, a week out, so we'll have to wait and see how the forecast shapes up on that. And it's already changed since yesterday. So there's the showers for tomorrow, Wednesday night, Thursday. That's pretty consistent. But the system that's coming in Sunday night and Monday looks really weak right now. Just 24 hours ago, it looked a whole lot stronger than it does. So again, we'll just have to wait and see how things shake out. It'll come, but it doesn't look like it's in the near future. 49 degrees right now and cloudy, but those clouds will break up, and that'll lead to fog or frost in the morning, and then sunshine, and highs will be in the low 50s again. And there's the dry weather, Blair, right on through the weekend. We'll get that rain as we go into late Sunday night and Monday morning.
Okay, Matt, thanks so much.
You bet.
And we're back right after this. Okay, well, make sure to keep it right here on KGW tonight because the NBA is back on NBC, and tonight's game features the hometown Trailblazers. It's one of a handful of Blazer games airing on KGW this season. Tip-off is set for 8 o'clock right here on KGW. Well, that's the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. The good stuff is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. If you ever miss an episode of The Story at 6:30, we re-air it at 8:30 and 10:30 on our TV app, KGW Plus, which, hey, you can download for free right now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. In the meantime, have a great Tuesday night. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.